Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to us for the Rise Above WASP Film Festival screening at the Topaz Film Festival, put on by Women in Film Dallas. This is Kara White. She is the writer and director of the film, Rise Above WASP, and I shot it. And joining us today is Sarah Adams.
Hi.
And Morgan Lauré.
Hello.
Who are good enough to talk to us about the experiences of filming this. This is kind of the first time that everyone's going to be able to see the film. It was supposed to have a debut in Los Angeles back in March, but
it was like the week
after
COVID hit.
Being that this is 2020, every
Everything.
show and filming event ever has gone away. So it is just sitting, waiting for its opportunity. And fortunately, the Topaz Film Festival accepted it and has an online component. So people around the world who actually have been clamoring to see the film, whether they were worked on it or they've heard about it.
My mom watched it already.
Yes.
My parents are the ones clamoring. Like, I cannot begin to tell you that ever since we shot this, like, when are we going to see it? How are we going to see it? What are we going to do?
The irony of it all, it actually did have a screening. It screened at the AirVenture Air Show in 2019 in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And the irony of it all for the WASP movie is none of the women who were in the film got to see it. All of the boys got to see it.
Yeah, they drove up from Texas.
God bless them. And saw it in its the environment that it's designed to, in a 8-foot by 48-foot curved screen.
And it looks so good in there, and I'm very disappointed that people can't see it right now.
So to get it into for the film festival, for people to be able to watch it on their smart TVs and browsers, we kind of had to create a brand new version of it that is only 16 by 9 4K. So sorry to downgrade it for everybody worldwide to be able to see it, but such are the times.
And all the different versions we did, where we did the wraparound and the
curve
dome
and
the flat, did not come in handy for this, because all of the flats we have to remix the audio because it's different cuts or different takes.
Unless nobody cares that you're all out of sync.
And we would have had to redo all of our special effects.
Yes.
So,
especially all the digital effects.
At least for this part, we couldn't reutilize on the flat version. But.
There were 60 some digital effects that were done for the film. The original Jurassic Park, I think there were 40.
Yeah, but they have like puppets.
This is basically better than Jurassic Park.
Basically.
More effort.
Humble brag there. We have
some of them were big shots that we had to adjust. Some were logos and small things in the background and windmills, because Avenger Field, where we filmed this, now has wind farms all over, and there's forward thinking as the WASP were back then. They weren't into green energy just yet. So
unless it was like a time travel film and we weren't aware of it. Which it could be.
It could be.
It could be.
I have another story in mind.
Sidebar. Let's recut the whole thing.
If you want to get weird with WASP stories, you should. What's the name? Warbirds is the name of it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we're totally getting off track. But there is a movie called Warbirds, and it is about the WASP as they delivered the bomb to Japan. And pterodactyls are there. So they have to fight pterodactyls.
They crash land on an island held by the Japanese.
This is my jam.
This WASP
is fantastic.
Fly Japanese Zeros against the pterodactyls.
Everything is wrong.
I mean, don't.
They did fly a B-29. That's the only accurate part.
Don't spoil it for me. But do the pterodactyls win, or were they?
Maybe.
Who's better?
Here's the thing. You said it wasn't real, but there weren't cameras. I mean, does anyone really know? No.
First question. We'll get back on track.
Yes.
When this commemorative Air Force are the people that decided to do this film and let us make it for them. So your task after you interviewed the WASP was to go find some people to play the WASP.
Yes.
So how'd you do that?
Well, because we were filming in Texas, I contacted Dallas talent agencies, and I first did the trolling of all the headshots. In the
You actually looked through all of them?
Whatever was on their website.
Okay.
But the very first one I ever saw was Sarah's, and I was like, she has the best smile.
Yeah, this is where last name of Adams really pays off. Like
Zimmerman women just
no.
I was like, done, found one. One is good.
Adam, check.
Changing my name tomorrow. Double A. Morgan Aaron.
That's the people with the W is the last name.
Yeah, we're at the very end. But if you're going by first name,
yes,
you would be. But yeah, I saw Sarah's photo first, and I was like, "Oh, I love her smile. Like, it's perfect." And then
it really is.
Yeah,
Please
I had
stop.
2 shots in my head where they were based around smiles, and I was like, kind of good. So I was looking for women who looked period, like they would be appropriate for the period. And of course, I wanted women who were really talented. So I kind of I reached out to the agencies and told them what our requirements were. And because of the historic story and because of segregation in the Army, was looking for white women. And a certain age range, so between like 20 to 35, I think was kind of what the WASP ended up being. So I kind of was hemmed in on that part, but I just said I need some auditions, and I got a lot, and everybody was really great, but I knew the second I watched Morgan's, I wanted Morgan. And when I watched Sarah's, I was like, perfect. So I was like, oh, look, and she can act. She has a nice smile and she can act.
Stop it. A good face and talent. Well.
Bryn was great too. And
Bryn was great.
At the time that we were looking at this, like films were coming out like Dunkirk and other things. And what was very keen in our brains was, because one of the problems with Dunkirk, it's like, which white dude with a buzz cut's that?
I was very confused
because there's a lot. And you got 2 hours to sort that out. And for this film, we had 29 minutes, and we had to have 3 women that on no kidding around. First look, you can tell which one was which right off.
Red, blonde, brunette.
Yeah. Check. Possible. Which felt silly, and I know it had I feel like there was somebody else who maybe would have taken somebody else's place, but because of hair color, which is so stupid, that I was like, but I really love my choices. I would not replace you guys for the world. So.
Everything, when it came to the script the script first, but everything was based off the real conversations that we had with a dozen WASP. So in having both of us having gone down that road and met each one of them, that in hearing your auditions and seeing you, it's like I see different ones at different points within all 3 of these women. Right. So nothing was jumping out. It's like, whoa, that's off the mark or anything.
But I mean, we've got nothing but praise from people who've seen it, that they're like, those actresses are great. And I was like, I know, I picked them.
Because the WASP leaned into us. They're like, now, don't screw this up with the casting.
The WASP did.
Right?
The WASP Museum did. I'm sorry.
Yeah. There were people with the museums that were like, you can't make them Kardashians. And I was like, what do you think? Why would you think I would do that?
Because that's what other people do.
I know.
When you did get the role, the different roles that we did, did you know who the WASP were first and foremost?
Initially, no. I had no idea, which is a tragic occurrence.
Wow.
But I mean, a lot of people aren't aware of the sacrifices or of the organization that existed. So this is a huge opportunity for myself to become educated on these powerful, fantastic women. And I can tell you though, I spread that gospel when I got back. Like, wait, have you heard about this group of women?
Me too.
They existed and they didn't get recognized by Congress. Like, did you know this was a thing? And be like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a thing. It was a thing.
It was a thing.
Did you?
So yeah.
In digging into it, once you got the role, did you watch anything or, well, there's nothing to watch, but
well,
did you?
There's a couple of other docs out there.
I think you guys sent us a link of a few things before we shot. I think they were actually stuff that y'all had done prior.
It's very big.
So,
it
was the only step out there for that had a great representation of WASPs and who they were and what they did. And why this film was being made and the importance of their story. But other than that, I came into it with an open mind and excited that it was a period piece. I love the styling of the 40s, 50s is just beyond. It's beautiful. So I was really excited.
Same. And my uncle was a pilot. So I actually did know who the WASPs were when I came in, because he would collect these his whole office was done in there were old planes and he had like maps all over the walls. And so he was obsessed, and he had given me like this little old patch that goes on a jacket, which I think you guys ended up giving me one too, but this one was like much older.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what it was, and I didn't care because there was no history. It was just, everyone knew Morgan loved to travel. And I had wanted to take flying lessons for so long that he had just gifted it to me once. So I knew who they were, but I didn't know the story until we kind of came in for our table read.
Yeah.
And we got to watch. And I remember sitting there being like, oh, this is so meaningful. Because in our life, and Sarah can attest to this, like, we've done things like Shakespeare on stage, or we've done toothpaste commercials or whatever, but being in a project that actually meant something, that was giving someone a voice, that was I just got chills, that was telling people, wait, they weren't even like recognized as veterans until like the 70s, right? Mm-hmm. And then Obama they got forgive my ignorance, it's been a while, it's been a couple of years, was it the Congressional Medal of Honor or something?
Yeah.
In like 2009. Yeah.
Yeah.
And 3 years ago, they were allowed finally to be buried in Arlington.
Well, they were allowed to be buried in Arlington.
And somebody
and then the new guy came in and was like, no.
Oh.
And then family members of the WASP who were trying to bury them in Arlington had to go fight
petition in Congress again.
So
it continues.
Just a lot of like gut punches where you're like, really?
Constantly.
But also that made it feel more important. It made it feel like it was like a story that had to be told, something pressing and powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And filming it on the actual location probably didn't hurt at all.
Not at all.
To actually film it at Avenger Field in Sweetwater. Did we tell you before the day of that you would have to start a World War II airplane?
No. All I remember in casting is like, you might get to fly in an airplane and blah. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. It'd be nice to have that experience. And then I think it was Kara that's like, yeah, this guy is gonna teach you how to start this airplane. I'm like, excuse me, what?
Yeah, I was like,
there's a scene where you start the airplane. You cool with like starting this authentic World War II airplane right here. We know you have no experience with aircraft whatsoever, but this guy's going to teach you like 15 minutes and it's going to be, you're going to look great. Just be real.
Back in. Locked. Okay. Go ahead and hit the start switch.
Just be real.
Yes, you're not going to be able to hear anything. So you're going to have to remember, and if you don't, we'll tie a string to you so you take your hand off the thing in time. Don't screw it up.
The tying the string was the pilot's
That's
suggestion.
beyond us.
Where it was like,
you're all in there like marionettes.
Like a Rube Goldberg system where he's like, hey, start the engine.
I know when we're working on a project, Kara and I sort of get our head down and go, we'll do this, and then you two will learn how to fly the plane. Now let's go off over here.
Right.
Good luck.
This is not the first time we've done that to an actress, which we should probably learn our lesson. But it did seem like you had kind of a
oh my gosh, it was the highlight. It was so fantastic. I actually remember the first shot of the first day of filming. It was sunrise, and walking out onto the tarmac where all the planes were, it was just breathtaking because as you have your sun coming up, and it's Texas, so it's flat, and it's this gorgeous shot with the silhouette of the planes. Then it's like, okay, now you got to climb up and get in it with like this vintage, authentic parachute. P.S. It's still loaded, so don't grab this this cord because it will explode.
And there's like 4 in the world of them.
Yes, and so like don't ruin it. But you also have to climb up. And sidebar, these WASPs were fantastic, badass women, right? But they did it all in shoes with leather soles.
Yeah.
They weren't wearing tennis shoes or boots. And so they're like, oh, come climb up on this metal plane in these leather shoes that you're wearing while you have this 100-year-old backpacks strapped to you for a shot of the day. I'm like,
It's 75 years. It would have been new back then. But
it's great. Oh, and P.S. it's 110 outside.
Exactly.
Sorry.
P.S. It's August in Texas.
as one of the gals' shoes melted to the ramp while we were there.
Yes.
Which she went on to actually develop a shoe company,
A
a
vintage
shoe company, and is doing pretty okay for herself.
Yeah. Yeah. So we started one entrepreneur from that.
Wow.
Very apropos for the WASP.
Yeah.
In the rest of the shoot, whether it be that day or when we're by the arch or even the B-29 material that we got to shoot, is there moments that jump out to you that you remember or at least tell other people about that
So many.
you can't, that stick with you?
Well,
I have.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go
Morgan.
ahead. No, you go. You go.
Besides starting the aircraft, like that was fantastic. And the force of it and the sound and being in costume, and it was an experience of a lifetime. I tell so many people filming this project is my top moment of my career. It was the crew and the cast and seeing everybody in period clothing and hair and makeup and everyone there championing this project on because it's has such a great mission and purpose behind it. It's not a frivolous piece at all. It's intentional and purposeful. And so that played a lot into what we were doing. And the other moment I talk about was on this, I think it was in the first day, maybe it was the second day, but we were shooting in that tiny little war room. Day one. And it was in the afternoon, and this war room had no ventilation, and it had 20 people inside. So COVID disaster, written all over it. But what was worse is I think a PA or somebody went outside, it was like shook a tree, and all these wasps came out, like literal wasps were now attacking. And then the first AD got stung and his arm went numb, and we're just trying to get through it, and people are hot.
Day one.
So I was like,
you that got stung on your face?
No. Bob Ruggieri, who was
The
our
first AD.
got stung.
I think
Yeah.
one of the grips did too.
And one of the
but-
grips
Yeah.
got stung too.
and like
Because
everyone,
they were like dive bombing.
Yeah.
yeah,
And they were running past the windows
Yes.
while we're on there.
It was
What
like
are they
a-
doing?
Yeah, it was like a Looney Tunes cartoon going on by the window, like. and you're
and
like,
it's just, and it's an intense scene
Yeah.
because what happens during
I mean,
it,
because storms.
And after all that, one, you have to pull off that line where you say storms. And then after everybody's been put through the meat grinder and cooked all day,
Mhm.
that's the last thing we do is the dramatic push in on you, Sarah. So you have to
just
still
save that for
behave
the end of the
yourself.
day.
yeah, as I'm trying not to like sweat
Yeah.
off my makeup or die from a wasp thing, which I'm telling you could happen.
And then we'll all do it the next day by
we'll
going
do it
out onto the and do the arch scene after that, which I felt when the T6 came flying over. One, we all know what you look like when you think you're going to die. And we know that face now. And two, when you're looking at the T6 and saying your lines of how impressed you are, it felt like that you really were, because you had been in
Absolutely.
it before you started it.
That's an AT6 with 600 horsepower.
That's so much more than the 90 I'm used to.
It's so fast.
Yeah.
I will. So yes. So in that scene, Morgan and Brennan walking in front of me, and my back is still turned to where the airplanes are going to be flying over our heads. So at this point, Morgan and Brennan were in front of me, and they turn around, and I see the look on their face, like, "Oh, that plane's really low." And so I hear it. I'm like, "Wait, is there something happening behind me?" And I don't. What is there? Are people running away right now? And I'm not aware of the situation. So their look coupled with the sound of this airplane flying very low, I turn around and I'm like taken aback by the sheer magnitude of this plane and how close it is. I mean, and you can feel it in your chest, the engine and the sound.
I would like to point out that I ruined most of the audio takes because when it was over, I'd be like, yeah! And when you were listening to the edit, I'm like,
as the person who edited that sequence, and I can attest that she ruined most of the audio when I was trying to put it together.
I definitely tell the WASP story.
Oh, good.
The dive bombing wasps. But my favorite story to tell is when I was in the plane, and Adam, you had some shot you wanted to get where like the plane is going, the propeller is, I mean, we're full force ready. And you said, Morgan, can you just stick your head out and then come back? But you got to leave it out there for a second. And I was like, sure. Well, I'm in period. So I've got bright red hair and dark lashes. I was supposed to be like the kind of, I guess, the more makeup clad one. Which is fine. Hi.
You were representing the class of women.
So I had these very long black lashes on. And so I'm like, oh yeah, sure, I'll do whatever. Yeah. So like, you know, we're in the plane, it's going, and I see you do this to stick my head out. And so, you know, I stick my head out and goes, whoa. And my lashes, I can just feel the lashes just doing this. Hitting me in the back of the head. And you're like, stay. So I'm just going. I could just feel it, just the tears coming back.
Tom Cruise can do it on the side of a plane. You can do it on the ground.
I'm
sure I said that was great and walked away.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, that's great.
Whatever.
We'll never see that.
Great.
Let's go get attacked by wasps now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I'm trying to think of any other stories that I tell. No, just the wasp and the eyelash story. I did think it was really amazing that we were all in actual period clothing now.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times it's either made or whatever, and everything was like real.
Yeah.
Our dresses were
they were amazing. Amy Lauré, who was in charge of that, did a great job tracking that stuff down. She was like, oh, even for the opening scene that has nothing to do with you guys, but there's a little girl who's supposed to be Sarah as a younger person. She's like, I found this, and it's like a super delicate white floral dress. She's like, it's from the 30s. I'm like, oh,
gosh,
like,
that's amazing.
I'm gonna break it by looking at it.
Oh yeah, it was like less than like a 90, where you're like, this thing is gonna fall apart in my hands.
Can't survive.
But yeah, she's very into that vintage reenactor stuff, so she tracked all of that stuff down. And then the stuff that she didn't know, she'd get on the phone with her husband, who's more into it than she is, because she'd be like, oh my god, it can't be wrong, I just gotta make sure it's right.
Which we did the best that we could when it come to that sort of thing, but ultimately it's the story that you're portraying as women trying to do this thing, as opposed to, and we get, just like she said, we get pulled down that hole of making sure everything is super accurate, but at the end of the day, it's your portrayal of what these women are trying to accomplish, not how many stitches are in the patches or
right. But as best we could. It should be noted that the person flying the plane over the sign was Laura Stantz, who I think was trying to fly extra low just to like peel the paint off and be like, I gotta
She shook the
represent.
crane, and the camera crane would go and she'd fly over, and I had to take the wobble out just digitally.
There was a couple times where I'm like, that plane is gonna hit our crane.
And that plane which you started is an original WASP plane that was flown by the WASP at Avenger Field. So there was a lot of general goodness that was surrounding.
Certainly a very special shoot. And
absolutely.
I think we walked away from that, or I walked away from it going, if I never make another thing again, I'm perfectly pleased, because I made my dream project. I mean, my dream project would be do a full feature-length movie of this, but
hey,
as close as I
Netflix series.
Never say never.
That's true.
And there was a lot of pressure on it because nobody had done this story really. So if we were doing a story about Easy Company or about the Tuskegee Airmen once again, that there are a few people have done those stories already. So in doing the WASP story, the Commemorative Air Force had a lot of pressure on them to do well for the first one out of the gate. And then when we had the premiere at Oshkosh, there was a lot of cheering. There were 3 screenings that day. The first screening had the head of the FAA in there, and Tuskegee Airmen were watching. The second screening had the Women's Pilot Association in there. We missed that screening. We were outside talking to other people, but apparently there was lots of cheering and approval.
Wow.
I wanted to see that one with all the women pilots in there. They were just like, they were very excited.
Multiple WASP have seen the film, and they gave the approval of how they were depicted.
I think the best thing I've received is from the one from Utah, Salt Lake City.
Nell Bright.
I love Nell. She sent me a message on Facebook and said, "Thank you for telling our story so accurately," which I think a lot. I don't know how many times this story's been told, but I feel like sometimes it gets buried, where they're telling the story of the WASP, but it's not necessarily, it's more of a textbook story of them. So I think she felt it was a really good personal account, which was really hard to do in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
I wrestled every word that was in that script. I think I rewrote it multiple times.
I mean, you had to be so succinct and specific and pointed with every line of dialogue in order to convey not only who these women were, the characters, but also the time that they were facing and the struggles, and then the importance of their positions and their roles during this period in our country. I mean, it's a challenge to do.
We would have made it, 4 hours long if we wanted to, and
PBS special,
and usually we're not really tied to the word as rigidly as we were. Like to say, okay, this is what we're trying to get across. Now you try a few different variations on your own, but we didn't have that luxury because we had to hold to a 29-minute running time. So we kind of had to.
And I remember having a conversation with both of you during the funeral scene, because we were kind of like picking apart the words, and I was like, I have to convey this scene in like a minute. Like, I know it feels very ham-handed to say and it's not how I would have wanted that scene to be written. But because it's for children, I mean, the target audience is children, and because of the short amount of time to tell that story, it was kind of like, okay, this is the best thing I can come up with. Which
the two of you did great.
It's a great scene. But
there are other smaller moments and looks and lines here and there throughout the rest of the film, but that's because it's by and large a one-er push in on the two of you having the scene, fortunately, I mean, we were there watching it. We would have changed it if we needed to, but watching it as a wonder that the two of you took the beats just fine, so we didn't need to change it.
I do have a question. Did the B-29 ever get up?
It did. We finally, when on the day that after we were done filming with it, it went to the paint shop for 4 months.
Oh, wow.
Or 3 months. And during that time, we went and made a completely other movie for PBS about the Apollo program. Then she came back, and then we did go up in the air filming with it.
That was our winter.
That was our break, was to make a whole nother movie.
They're like, okay, now back to making it.
So then we came back out, back down to Texas and filmed her doing takeoffs and landings.
Right. That was a whole other thing, trying to get the aerials of the B-29. We went to Texas for a weekend and did nothing because the B-29 didn't fly.
She wasn't flying.
Yeah. So we just hung out in Dallas. And then came back.
Came back and she was able to go up again, and then we got in the aerials that we needed for it, and then had to take it into the graphics shop because she didn't have the right nose art on there as so we had to digitally change the outside of the airplane.
Oh, retouching.
Little touches here and there.
Gosh, man.
That was the one thing I always say is I wish I could have flown that thing.
I know.
Yeah.
That's one that we have not gotten a chance.
Her and I didn't get to go up in it.
Because there's only 2 flying in the world, and it's very hard to get. I mean, you can buy a flight in it, but it's expensive.
Yeah.
It's allegedly supposed to cost 10 grand to put it up in the air. So
I remember you telling me us that because of how the amount of fuel it takes.
fuel and,
Yeah.
and the maintenance personnel that are associated with it. So when the 29 went up, we filmed it from a different warbird from a B-25 and hung out the back of that. So,
But our audio guy Kevin got to fly in
yes.
the
Oh, Kevin, man.
Yeah,
The
right.
It should be noted,
Absolutely.
the audio guy almost never gets a ride. So this is
That's fair. That's fair.
karma,
I
but,
guess.
Yeah, he can have the one none of us ever got to fly in.
we're probably coming around to the end. So I just wanted to say thank you both for being a part of a production like this. I wish we were all in Dallas this
I
week,
know.
having
So great.
unrealistic amounts of drinks and enjoying everyone seeing the film. But the Commemorative Air Force is based in Dallas. So if it's not 2020, in 2021, then we can come down there and everybody, including your families, can come see it on the screen that it was meant to.
And it's free.
And it's free. So everybody, go to the Topaz, go to the link that we'll have associated with this and watch Rise Above WASP and vote for us when after you watch it. But
My mom voted for us.
Classic mom coming in clutch, man.
how many times can I press the button?
Yeah, right?
But Morgan, thank you. Sarah, thank
Yes,
you.
thank
for,
you very much.
Thank
joining.
you guys.
Thanks for letting us be a part of this.
Absolutely.